Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining Reline Live. I know had a bit of a break the last month. I've actually been able to get back out in the field and start working again. So it's been a little slow for me on the Reline Live stuff, but I'm back. And this week we have URETEK. So I'm super excited to be joined by Ryan and Kyle, who are project managers in different areas of the country for URETEK. It is a soil stabilization product they're going to talk to us about. With that said, as you guys most of you are repeat guests, so put your questions in the question box. I'm really more here to facilitate, make sure we get your questions answered and that you guys learn about the product. We have 5 handouts in the handouts tab if you guys want to download. They're going to be going through these case studies in really high level. So when you guys want to go back and learn more and read through them in detail, you've got those handouts there. Thank you, Ryan and Kyle. I'm going to let you guys go from here.
Thanks so much, Cassie. This is Kyle Olsen. I'm out in Southern California, cover the California territory for URETEK. And who URETEK is we're, as Cassie mentioned, we're a soil stabilization company. We were founded about 35 years ago out in Tomball, Texas. And since then, we've branched out to all of the United States. We're running about 13 different crews and 22 operating units. And URETEK utilizes the injection technology similar to cementitious grouting. But instead of putting all of that weight and having all of that liquid concrete in the ground, we use an expanding, lightweight, hydro-insensitive polymer. Essentially, really, really strong Home Depot spray foam. We inject it from the surface, and we do this for the purposes of leveling concrete or asphalt. This can be done for like bridge approaches, any rocking slabs you have inside warehouse facilities, streets, roads, freeways, highways, so on and so forth. We also do this for lifting foundations of structures, which can be large commercial buildings or anything all the way down to residential homes. We do this a ton, and I know Ryan does most definitely for swimming pools and increasing the bearing capacity of the soil by just making it stronger. This is also used for weak soil compaction. And a lot for what we want to talk to you about today is going to be for infrastructure, sewers, dams, levees, culverts, seawalls, so on and so forth. Now,
Hey,
a lot of people get the idea.
We actually have a poll question to see how many people have used a soil stabilization product. You want me to launch that now so we kind of have an idea of the group?
Absolutely. That would be great.
All right, cool. All right, so if you guys have ever used a soil stabilization product, let us know. That'll give us a little bit of time to see if we should go in depth on it more. If a lot of you have used it before, then we won't go into as much detail. It'll just kind of help us drive the conversation today. Okay, wow, you guys voted very quickly. All right, I think we're good. I have like 90% voted. Wow, that's the fastest a poll's ever been done. All right, so just so obviously Kyle, Ryan, you guys can see this. 40% of the group has used it, 60% hasn't. So if that helps you on kind of go through what we're talking about, I'll let you go back. Take it from here.
No problem.
Okay.
Ryan, do you want to take that, or I can keep going?
Go ahead and keep going for right now.
So anytime you might want to strengthen base soils or stabilize soil can be anytime you have hillside slippage, weak soil layers, poor compaction issues that result in the consolidation of soil, which can result in the downward movement of anything that the soil is supporting. Now, as far as soil stabilization is concerned, this can also be the expansion of clay soil, which may be affecting sidewalks, foundations, roadways sitting on top of it as well. So instead of creating the downward settlement, you create an upward heave. In both of those instances, you're going to want to do some sort of remediation in order to mitigate the failures that are operating at the surface. Why URETEK is so successful at this is because instead of having to excavate down generally 3 to 5 feet below whatever the affected zones are, pulling out all of the asphalt and concrete and dirt and all the spoils, and then bringing in engineered fill, compacting in 6-inch lifts, and then building it all back up. Instead of doing all of that process, URETEK will inject from the surface. The liquid goes in as a flowable fill. It's a 2-part polymer, which is an iso and a resin. And when they react, they create this rapid expansion that creates about 5 tons of upward force. That's what gives us our lifting ability. It goes in under low pressure through permeable soil, so it finds all those voids, all the weak layers of soil, traveling much like water would, finding the path. And then the reaction occurs, filling those voids, strengthening the soil, binding everything together, and ultimately facilitating lift. This is important because it's more of a permanent solution, reaching final compressive strengths that can be comparable to concrete. It's eco-friendly in that the polymers are non-toxic. They have no ozone depleting chemicals whatsoever. They don't biodegrade. They don't break down. They're hydro-insensitive, which means it's a closed cell polymer. It functions fantastic as a leak sealant for any leaking pipes, culverts, dams, levees, seawalls, etc. Any inflow and infiltration issues you have, you can now handle from the surface level instead of, again, excavating down to the bottom. That's why we like to say, whether you're looking at any of the applications of clientele, which you see down at the bottom, which can be railways, DOD, manholes, homes, institutions, commercial buildings, swimming pools, so on and so forth, the biggest thing is going to be the downtime. The polymer reaches 90% of its total yield strength within the first 15 minutes. So by the time we're done cleaning up our operations, you guys are good to take down whatever traffic control that you have set into place. This is important for our transportation departments, for all of our industrial buildings and commercial buildings. Kind of like we like to say, on the contract dollars, we can save you actual money most of the time. But when it comes to your production downtime and all of the ancillary costs, we will save you 100% of the time. It has never not been true. Now you can see on the screen right now, the starting process might be for some uncompacted fill that are underneath the roadway. So we will first evaluate the entire area. You can see that patch of asphalt there is very common for us because usually we're not the very first solution out there. Oftentimes they go for quicker, cheaper patches and kind of hope that the soil just stabilizes itself. So when we get out there, we'll again profile everything. We will run lasers, we'll run string lines, we'll run dial gauges, we will run whatever is appropriate for that particular job in order to profile the levels that we are shooting. I kind of like that photo that you saw right there because that's us in full injection operation. You can see it's very low profile. We have a low footprint out there. We're monitoring with our lasers for the slightest levels of movement. And you can kind of see that tubing right there. We inject on a 4-foot by 4-foot grid pattern, and then we pre-cut tubes to targeted depths. Now, whether you use a geotech report or dynamic cone penetrometer testing to figure out how deep it needs to go, that tells us how deep we need to shoot and roughly how much product it'll take. Again, this is us in full injection operation. This is all it is. Most you can hear at this point is a generator. It's good for commercials and apartment buildings and things like that because it's not a lot of loud noise. They're injecting on those 4-foot centers. They're monitoring during the injections, and at this point, they're going to facilitate the lift up to the targeted levels. At the end of the job, they just clean everything up, and then we'll grout the holes with a non-street grout, a cementitious grout, or an asphalt, whatever it happens to be necessary for that particular pavement profile. And that's literally walking you through the whole job. You saw there was no excavation. There was no cure time really that we have to wait for. Again, 90% of its yield in the first 15 minutes. So you're saving all those costly trips to the landfill. You're saving just so much on every job. And that's it. That's kind of our process. So hopefully that kind of helps you get, oh, sorry, we do run the profile one more time. You saw where that string line was before for this particular job. It's lifted all the way back to level, therefore highlighting the successful lifting of the projects that we were on. So that sort of introduces you to the product and the process and to soil stabilization in 5 minutes. And, going from here, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ryan. He's going to walk you through a couple of example projects about why you should be interested with stuff like this.
All right, so I've got we've done quite a few of them. Been around it a little over 12 years. Kyle's been at least 15 plus. What we wound up doing is a lot of it is within the infrastructure, Department of Defense. There's no job big or small that we wind up going onto. I've done trip hazards that are very minimal on up to into the millions with railroads and office buildings and different parts of highways and airports. So um, on your screen, I've got the one from FedEx, this one, and like what Cassie said, you can download some of these, and we're just going to touch base on it real quick and run through it. Um, Over in Pocatello, we had this distribution center. They'd went in there. What originally had happened on this, they did just a method, which they just went in, lifted up the slab. It was by the client's request. We knew that there was a problem with that soil that was down below. There was a lot of fill within there, but in hopes that it would be already compacted, went in there already, did the lift, got it back to a near level, and then afterwards they saw more movement within 4 years. So then we got called in after, basically with after testing that showed about 20 to 25 feet below grade. It was almost like a bowl that went in. So we went in there, drilled all of our holes, and the funny thing was is we actually got carpet and old plastic, and it was basically the landfill that they had on there was kind of comical, everything that we saw come out of those holes, but we were able to get our injections down to that 25 feet on this project. Lifted certain areas, they had already done some repairs. They didn't want to lift it back to an exact level. They wanted it to be stabilized, and then they was going to go back in and either do an overlay or keep certain office areas the way they were. They just wanted to make sure it was not going to happen again on any drops in the elevation. So he was able to go through that. They was quite pleased on that. We actually got a few other FedEx jobs from then, just because of that distribution center over there in Pocatello. In the photo, when we're doing it, a lot of times when we go in and do our injections and do our repairs, whether it's a homeowner, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a production center, whatever it is, we can go in there and do it under the conditions while they're still working. We do stuff at night. Time is the daytime or nighttime is not an essence of us. So it doesn't matter when we can go in, but we'll run exhaust fans. We'll do anything possible to get it to where it's in the best condition for the client while we're doing our repairs, so that they don't lose any kind of downtime as well. This one, we had some foundation settlement for the 10th Medical Group over for the United States Air Force Academy. This was during the beginning of our pandemic, of everybody being shut down. We are considered an essential employee, essential company, and was able to go in. They had cracking floor slabs. They actually went through to build this whole facility right away, and then noticed cracks within it before it even was completed. So our, I'm sorry, I was getting an echo. Our crews was able to go in there, densify all that soil, get it to where they can fill any cracks, do any kind of void fill, and complete the job within a week after we got awarded. So the crews that we have, like what Kyle said, we've got them nationwide and our underlying territories to wherever we need to be. It's only Kyle and myself on this podcast right now, but I cover Arizona to Montana. He covers California. We've got other project managers that's in Arizona, basically nationwide. Any project wherever you're at, you can get a hold of us, or you can get a hold of URETEK, and we will make sure and get one of the project managers that's within the territory to come look at any kind of a problem. It is. It doesn't matter if it's a trip hazard or if it's a railroad dropping, your highway having a big dip, you're driving to work and all of a sudden you get this dip and it spills your coffee, and hey, I'm in charge of that road. What's going on? We can go out there. We can even give preliminary pricing that's within it, give a repair plan. We work with engineers all the time, and we also have our internal engineering.
So I have a couple of questions that came in, Ryan. Do you think we should jump in and answer a few of these?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the attendees asked if there's a max injection depth.
We've injected up to 60 feet down. Basically, the deeper you go, it's just a matter of the product that we wind up using. I mean, we've got 4 to 6 main projects or products that we use, but there is a slower reactant product if we do need to get down lower. There's a fast acting product. There was actually one recent one was for Utah DOT. They wound up repairing a K-rail. They opened up the highway and realized there was a 2-foot by 4-foot. It was kind of a oblong look, but the 2-foot wide gap that was within there, we was able to go and put our polymers in there. It's a faster reactant, but it's a low exotherm. So when the two parts mix, it creates a lot of heat, a lot of friction within it, and so that low exotherm has it to where it doesn't want to smolder or want to catch on fire, so to speak. But within that, we can tell which one we would need to do. We could have also used our main product that we use and just injected it slower. So it just depends on the depth and the product that we need to use. But me personally, I'd spend 60 feet.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to chip on that also. Ryan's right. The maximum depth we have injected so far is about 65 feet. When you start getting into things like liquefaction mitigation and you want further injection depths, URETEK is always innovating, researching, and developing new products and polymers. I think our capacity right now, or our capability, is somewhere closer to 100 feet. They had a product that they released somewhere around November of last year. That's just a super slow reacting polymer that you can inject at a lower temperature to get it that deep. Typically speaking, I don't see a lot of reasons why you would need to shoot 100 feet deep, unless you were looking specifically at liquefaction mitigation. But we also do a lot of value engineering, where if you're shooting a bridge approach or departure slab or something like that, there's generally no reason to shoot 100 feet deep. Even if the soil is absolutely terrible down 60 feet from surface, you can create a pad on the top with which to support it. That way you save a lot of time and money shooting the polymer at somewhat shallower depths. So it really just kind of depends, but our capability right now is about 100 feet.
Awesome. Another question that came in was, can counties, DOTs, can they be trained on installing these products and then eventually self-perform? Or is it something where your team always comes out and does the installation?
So those are conversations that we can definitely open up. I mean, it's definitely above my pay grade, but there has been instances where either the Department of Defense or an agency out in China, actually, that was looking at purchasing several different units and then self-performing after receiving training and certification. Once again, that's way above my pay grade. Can it be done? I have heard of it being done, yes.
Okay, that means that was a really good question if it stumped you. Or if it's above your pay grade. All right, so that's all the questions for now. I will let you keep running, Ryan. Let me know when you want me to launch our next poll.
Okay. So go ahead, Kyle.
I was gonna say I'll pick that one up. That is the one before this one was the Ruthroff Road and the I-10 freeway. There we go. So railroad. This one.
That was our railroad one.
What?
That was our railroad?
Oh, yes, the railroad. So this was done off of Ruthroff Road, the I-10 freeway. That's down in Tucson, Arizona. This was a really cool project, if only to watch. There was a leaking culvert about 20 feet deep that affected all of the soils on top. And it settled so much that as trains were passing over this crossing of the I-10 freeway, the box cars were actually striking the adjacent asphalt with the deflection that was happening on the crossing. So it was a very severe failure that they had going on there. We wound up injecting all the way down 20 feet. The DOT, Arizona DOT, requested that we actually fill the culvert, and we did our injections, filled the culvert, stabilized the whole thing, and lifted it all the way back up to level. The cool thing about this project is that we had a flagman who stood about a quarter mile off, and he would let us know when a train was coming. So as soon as we got news that a train was headed up, we'd shear off all of our tubes, pull off of the site, let the train pass overhead, then jump on and re-drill, drive, and shoot. So there was zero downtime for the rail traffic on this project specifically. And because this is a 2-lane highway right here, we were able to shut down 1 lane at a time. So while we did have some impact on the traffic itself, we never had to actually shut the whole thing down, which is what they were looking at. They were looking at a full reroute and diversion area for the traffic in order to do full excavation down to this leaking pipe. And they didn't have to do that. This particular area would have been a very significant reroute of traffic in order to get people by that crossing. So really, really cool project to take a look at.
And if you see that's the final result on it. Got the dip out compared to right there. Didn't it?
So this was a project that was done in Portland, and you see a lot of this type of work on hillsides, and actually I just did a job like this in Oceanside. Anytime people are looking to excavate next to a structure or an existing building, the concern is obviously about sloughing or about losing any of the soil and integrity beneath that existing structure. So the polymers can be used to actually create sort of a temporary shoring wall. This is often done through wood lagging or through any temporary shoring that may or may not already be there. But this was done specifically at an airport. They were doing a lot of different trenching activities at the airport, and they were looking for any type of temp shoring that we might be able to utilize in order to save them time and money on what they were doing. So we worked with, I think it was Rhino Geotech for this one, and we did, I think that was particularly a test project, and we actually shot different depths, and then they came back in and they excavated the whole thing. And you can see from that surface level sort of that veinous-like effect, or the tree root-like effect of the polymer traveling through the soil and then binding everything together. Excuse me. You can build a lot of cutoff walls or different things like that. But once they remove all of it, you can see all of that soil was tied in together, which was the successful implementation of the project. So we wound up picking up this job up in Portland in order to create temporary shoring sections for all of the excavation that they were doing. We continue doing that throughout today. I'm actually looking at a job in Los Angeles right now to do that exact same thing while at the same time building a cutoff wall. It's a great opportunity to get multiple benefits from one injection pattern.
Hey, Cass, I think that other poll that you was talking about, we can go ahead and do that one now. Also, I know we're getting close to time.
Okay, cool. Let me launch it. All right, so has anyone been driving along and spilled their coffee due to dips in the road? Yes, no, or you're crazy and just don't drink coffee?
I'm with the crazy on not drinking coffee. I don't know how I live without it.
I don't either. I'm on my like 5th cup today. I basically drink coffee until noon, and then I decide to switch to water.
That's good.
Depending between hot and cold.
Yeah,
exactly. Hot in the morning, cold in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, 60% have voted. We'll give it another second.
What? Someone doesn't drink coffee?
There are 80% have voted now. Okay, I'll close the poll. 25% of you don't drink coffee. That is crazy. All right, 75%. I'm guessing even the non-coffee drinkers have spilled something with dips in the road. All right, that was fun.
So yeah, the question on that was, there's a lot of the different culverts or valleys where they build the road across on your highway, and that dip you see in that road, 90% of the time that's soil failure. So we have a lot of contracts with the Department of Transportation throughout the U.S. that they can actually call us up if funding's available, and we can go out there and do our injections, get the repairs like the pictures we showed earlier, and eliminate those small problem areas, as well as a lot of the bigger areas. So we do a lot of the highways. Everybody's so used to, we need to do it on a highway and a bridge and get it that way. Look for that photo that was on there. But so yeah, other than that, we can have any questions. We're available at any time. I know we're getting close to the end of it, but if there's, I don't know if you had anything else, Cassie, of what we need to do on there, that is how you do your questions on there, or anything that be answered.
So I don't have any more questions that have come in. Well, let me check the chat box too, because some people put them in there. No more questions. I think the takeaway, at least for me, is outside of culverts, because that's obviously where TV Pipe Solutions kind of lives. We live in the Reline world, and that's why I do Reline Live, is you guys can help us in culvert. When we talked about this too, right, on our call yesterday, when I was at that job in Oregon where we went, we slip lined the pipe and then we went to grout, but all these lateral connections that weren't closed off, we just had spewing everywhere. So my takeaway is, in a situation like that, I should have recommended to the customer we use an injection grout like this prior to slip lining so that we stabilize the soil. Then we go in, slip line, and then the low density cellular grout, and it's not going to be leaking out all over the place, correct?
Yes. And we can, and if it's a pipe that's a culvert that's over, we like saying 3 feet, but we've had our guys in smaller ones. Kyle personally, we've stuck him down in a 24-inch pipe, and it was a nice tight squeeze. But we can go in there and inject it from the inside. So not only from the surface can we go down, and being a resin, it'll actually encapsulate and block off and seal that culvert or pipe. But we can go on and do our injections from the inside and get that to where it's fill all the holes, the gaps, any water infiltration that's going from actually just regular groundwater, or any of the fines of the soils. So we'll fill up those gaps. You guys, Reline goes back in there. They'll do a slip line or anything afterwards, so it doesn't fail later on.
It would have just, in this situation, it would have been so helpful, only because, I was on site and got to see it, but this crew was having to go, and every 10 feet they were digging up people's yards trying to plug grout spewing into the ground. And so it was so much more effort on this crew than if we had just done it beforehand, had you guys come in. And I didn't know the situation, or I would have recommended that at the time. But of course, the engineers didn't let them know how bad it was either. So we learned on site. But yeah, and then they wouldn't have, we actually ended up running out of cellular grout and having to order more for the next day, because they went through far more than they expected. Which that gets costly too, because now you've got another truck coming out for another day. So it adds up. So in some ways they would have saved money doing this before.
Yeah, for the lining, oftentimes when we do our injections, if you have like a disjointed culvert or something like that, a lot of them we can lift back to level. A lot of them we can stabilize to prevent them from moving. And like we did in the San Diego airport, we'll actually have a contractor come in after we're done and do the lining anyway, just because they get sort of a better seal on literally everything throughout. Sometimes when they put the lining in, we can fill the annular space with the polymer. It depends on a lot, but we do a ton of work with liners like that, with lining contractors. So there's a mutual benefit to both, to provide a better,
I think it's just
more solid.
I think it's good for everyone on the call, because like we talked, there's DOTs, there's municipalities, there's engineers on the call. So it's good for them to understand options, because there's so many options with relining and so many different ways to do it. But then obviously your guys' expansion is far beyond relining. I mean, your railways, your all kinds of infrastructure. So it's good for people to know what's out there. So I really appreciate you guys joining me today. I don't see any more questions coming in. So you guys, I am going to not be here next week for Reline Live. I'm actually headed to New England to go and do a week with Don LeBlanc, who is a very common host on Reline Live. So we will be following up my trip and doing a Reline Live of all the different job sites and all the different things that I go out and spend a week with him doing. So I'll keep you guys posted. It'll probably be about 2 weeks before I'm back. And if you guys run Kyle's information, you can ping me today. Otherwise, you'll get your thank you email tomorrow, and I will include their contact details for everyone on the call. So thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for attending.